everybody, and welcome to our complete set review of Dominaria. I am Evan Irwin.
I'm Ruben Bressler.
And I'm Aaron Campbell.
All day, and we are here to talk about all of the black cards in Dominaria. Now, we've gone through the white cards and the blue cards so far. We've had some special guests. We've had some serious fun. It's been super cool. It's time to continue on here with Blessing of Belzenlok. It is a black common instant. Target creature gets +2/+1 until end of turn. If it is legendary, it also gains a lifelink until end of turn. So a combat trick that turns into a better combat trick.
Yeah.
Right. The art on this card is getting a lot of attention for all of the wrong reasons. But if you take a look at it really closely, it's definitely something to giggle over. And I appreciate this. I'm not really convinced of Belzenlok as a villain quite yet. Like, I'm not really impressed with him. So far, I don't really understand this need to like rewrite history or whatever. So the flavor text kind of lands with a thud for me. But I do appreciate the combat trick. You know, odds are that you're going to be running a legendary given how many there are of them in this set. Right. And sometimes having a surprise and a lifelinker can really change combat.
Belzenlok's been the bad guy throughout the history of Dominaria. He's never had a card before until this set. So he's been existing, but sort of the confluence of also turning that into the fourth of Liliana's demons definitely felt a little, not ham-fisted, but a little bit fortuitous. And this flavor text, you're right, it does feel like a Tumblr post about Belzenlok.
Yeah.
It's weird. Magic has this weird kind of narrative issue where like you're like, Belzenlok's like the stuff. He's like the big blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Oh, this other spell over here is when he's getting killed, but it's cool. Don't worry about
right.
it. He's just a total BA. Like that's just strange because they kind of have to put everything into one. Whereas like when you had 3 sets, you could have somewhat of a narrative of oh, I didn't expect Xenagos to do whatever. Whereas now it's all packed in.
Well, for me at least, I think part of it is that the Cabal the Cabal's been around forever. You know, we've had Cabal Patriarch, Cabal Therapy, obviously, and those are really big shoes to fill. And so when you indicate that the Patriarch isn't coming back, you know, you sort of get this watered down. Those are the shoes you got to fill. You know, those are big shoes to fill, and Belzenlok really doesn't quite do that for me yet.
So for the card itself, this is one of those interesting cases I think where I like this card more in draft than in sealed.
Sure. And
usually in sealed, you know, these cards are better, but it's weird because if you're able to put on curve, you're able to draft a very aggressive deck. This is a great card for that. Whereas in sealed, a lot of times you kind of middle around with like some, you know, mid-rangey type 4 or 5 drops that don't do a whole lot, stare at each other for a long time, and this can break through those. But it's more effective if you're able to really put in a deck that wants it.
Yep. This is aimed directly at that knight deck. The black-white sort of strategy. Lots of first strikers, lots of lifelinkers already, and of course it helps you protect your legendaries in combat.
Gotta give that blessing.
Yeah.
Gotta get it. Cabal Evangel, a black and a generic mana for a 2/2 common human cleric, period.
Yep.
The highlight of this card really is the flavor text, in which they really hammer home what Belzenlok's trying to do with rewriting history, and you see Belzenlok kind of taking credit for things that he didn't do. You know, Evan carved the Stronghold, that was Krovax, yeah?
Right.
And then, you know, Scion of Darkness, you know, Doom of Fools, Lord of the Waste, Master of the Ebon Hand, Eternal Patriarch of the Cabal. He didn't do any of these things, but he's trying to erase all of these other villains and make himself be the only one and thus the more powerful. And I believe that was really the sole purpose of this card, was just the flavor text.
Nice.
I mean, you know, to give black a 2-drop, a 2-mana 2/2, which is fine.
Queen's Base Soldier as a human cleric here.
But note that history is written by the winners.
That's right.
So, and Belzenlok is clearly the winner there. Cabal Paladin is next. It's a black and 3 generic mana for a 4/2 common human knight. Whenever you cast a historic spell, Cabal Paladin deals 2 damage to each opponent. That being artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. So it ain't got a lot of booty. Got a tiny butt.
This is a giant cockroach, the 4/2 for 4, with a little bit of upside, I guess.
Reach is a good thing. Sometimes board stalls happen, you know, where you can't really profitably break through. You know, you don't have the combat tricks like the blessings on you. And so this gives you a way to sort of still pass the turn. But if you happen to cast whatever you might have, you're still dealing damage that way until you can find, you know, what you need to break through. And I appreciate cards like this.
It's very much similar to, again, the Relic Runner that we saw earlier, which is like you need ways to games to just end. This will just end games if you give it a long enough timeline. Yeah. So being the giant cockroach stats, being the ability to end games,
much
awesome.
better. Yeah.
So again, this is also a card that in sealed, if you have a bunch of historic cards, it's great. In draft, it's nice to be on the curve, have 4 power for 4 mana, and if you can back it up, that's okay. But again, this is just not an exciting card to kind of have no matter how you slice it.
Some Pauper players had, I guess Alex Ullman wrote a post on Channel Fireball about a really lengthy combo you could do with this card, and it's going to take a lot to even get it to work, but if you do like Living on the Edge, you could combo in Pauper with this card.
If you need 6 cards and like hold your mouth
That's
right.
what Pauper's for.
I mean, I play 1 land spy, so I can appreciate
There
that.
you go.
Wow. Caligo Skin Witch is a black and a generic mana 1/3, a common human wizard with kicker of a black and 3 generic mana. When Caligo Skin Witch enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, each opponent discards 2 cards. So if you want to pay 6 mana for your 1/3s,
Right.
you also get a Mind Rod on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, in games that go really long and sealed, if your opponents are holding up the Destroy an Attacker or a Gideon's Reproach or something like that, Caligo Skin Witch can get there. Neither half of this card is particularly exciting. This is going to go last a lot. But it is a wizard. Yeah, sorry.
But it has no enter the battlefield abilities unless
right.
you kick it. So you have to have 6 mana in order to get that to happen.
Yeah. I mean, other wizards, if you happen to open Narumeha, you get a little Lord ability. You could make it work if you had to.
It is not exciting. I wouldn't really want to run this in any of my draft or seal decks if I don't have to.
Nope.
Next up, we have a special guest for Cast Down. Let's see who it is and what they said.
Who's on the cast?
Hey, Magic Mike. It's Shaheen Soorani from StarCityGames.com and Team Card Hoarder. And the card I want to present to you guys today is Cast Down. So it's a 2-mana removal spell, black and 1, short-term non-legendary creature. It's gotten a lot of flack when it was released, and then a lot of people were criticizing it, saying it's not going to be great in a set full of legends with all the other legends that are prevalent in standard, and they couldn't be farther from the truth. They're more incorrect. It's the same hate that Ultimate Price and Go for the Throat received when they were released. It's just too narrow of a card, and people yearn for the days of Doomblade that aren't coming back. But Cast Down, just like Ultimate Price, is going to be a player in standard. It's going to be definitely going to fit in control decks as a 2 of, maybe even a 3 of. It helps alleviate some of the pressure that's on Fatal Push. There's just not enough Fatal Pushes in your deck to handle all the early threats, and Cast Down does the perfect job doing so. For 2 mana, we don't need to be killing Scarab Gods anyway and expensive legends. So just killing early things like Glint Sleeve Siphoner and Whirler Virtuoso is good enough for me. And I have a lot of faith in Wizards R&D. Whenever they make these cards like Ultimate Price or Go for the Throat or these narrow 2-mana removal spells, they usually do a great job regardless of it being held back by the restrictions of legend or non-artifact or monocolored. So kudos to Wizards for making the card. I think it's great. Kudos to the set. The set looks flavorful and awesome. And thank you guys, and have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you very much from the Control Master himself, Shaheen Soorani, for letting us know that Cast Down is absolutely a very playable Magic card.
Yeah.
It is a black and a generic mana for an uncommon instant that destroys target non-legendary creature. This is one of those that the set is basically about legends, but the removal spell is the antithema of that. That does not take away from this. Go for the Throat was absolutely playable. Ultimate Price was playable. In Return to Ravnica block with all the multicolor
Block
stuff.
the Plank. I mean,
There's going to be plenty of non-legends that are still very good Magic cards that you want to play. So yes, you're going to reach some point where it's not going to be playable. And it's not going to probably be the greatest thing in Limited because, again, things are oriented in a certain direction. But that doesn't mean you didn't play Go for the Throat back in the day. It doesn't mean you didn't play Ultimate Price in your RTR Limited decks. You still played it, and it was still fine. So this card, I do think, is absolutely playable. We'll see plenty of standard play, and will be a force for the next couple of years.
Absolutely. This is also going to be, I believe it's the Game Day full art promo. And historically, everything that's been the non-rare version, even the rares typically are good. So for example, for Hour of Devastation, this was a Braid. And a Braid, as we know, sees a lot of play. So that's the most recent one that I can think of. But this is definitely going to see a good amount of play, definitely in those control decks. And Cast Down is a fabulous card.
Flavor Text is a shout out to Chainer, who was a big name in the original Cabal. We talked about the Cabal being villains from the past, and Chainer's Tournament being a card that we're going to talk about a little later, but it's definitely a callback. I'm curious as to, do we know who Missoura is?
I'm sure we do.
Okay.
I'm sure the Vorthoses are screaming oh, I know exactly who Missouri is. Come on.
be
But I was
place.
happy to see Chainer back. I was happy to see the name Chainer come up.
Now, and also Torment being the name of a set.
Yeah.
So they got to sneak that in there, which is great. Speaking
Here
of
we are.
Chainer's Torment, Chainer's Torment, ladies and gentlemen, a black and 3 generic mana for a uncommon enchantment saga. The first chapter and the second chapter do the same thing. It deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you gain 2 life. Note that is each opponent if you're in a multiplayer setting. 3, its final chapter, create an XX black nightmare horror creature token where X is half your life total rounded up. It deals X damage to you. So if you start this and we're both at 10 life, you go to 8, I go to 12, you go to 6, I go to 14, and then I lose 7 and I have a 7/7, and I'm at 7 and you're at 6.
Sure.
So let's get that math out there.
Right.
Because this sounds a little scary, and probably is a little scary, but ultimately it's sort of feeding itself and then making a big monster for you to smash with.
I actually wasn't very impressed with this card. We see this sometimes with Black being able to make XX cards. Promise of Power, Corpse Weft was one where you could exile so many cards and make an XX. What really kind of loses me here is that there's no evasion. I mean, like demons, flying, trample, something. I mean, 7/7 is great, and I certainly won't turn that down, but I worry about it just sort of being a beater. Like, it can be chump blocked, especially.
It's also not going to be able to attack the turn that it comes into play.
We've seen a lot of token makers.
Really delayed blast fireball here, which I'm not a huge fan of. It doesn't affect the board when you play it. It only, Sorin's Thirst to your opponent. If it could pick off 2/2s, that'd be a different thing. The art, by the way, Vincent Proce, who, obviously who's worked on a couple of films recently, including The Shape of Water, which won Best Picture, was one of the artistic consultants there. Just some great work by Vincent here as well. All of the sagas, of course. I'm probably not going to ever play this card.
Probably not. But either way, I like the cleverness of it. I think if you're able to use like rescue, if you're able to really get clever with it and add, remove counters, sort of do stuff like that with it, you're able to get more mileage out of it than it just being like this thing, let's make a thing that doesn't have evasion or trample or whatever. But
if you're in a race situation, it's good. Like if you both have some pretty evasive creatures and you just need that little extra oomph to finish them off and put yourself out of burn range, then it's fine.
Or you could, I hate to keep coming back to this, but you could also pair this with Lich Mastery. 2 damage to each opponent. You gain 2 life, draw 2 cards. This is fine.
I'll take it. Dark Bargain, another awesome card. Black and 3 generic mana for a common instant. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand and the other in your graveyard. Dark Bargain deals 2 damage to you. So for 4 mana, this thing does a lot of work.
Yeah, I really like this card. Right now, the control decks are really using Glimmer of Genius, and Glimmer of Genius is great, but a lot of times you have that 2 energy that you're really not doing anything with. And, with Search for Azcanta being a thing, Torrential Gearhulk being a thing, cards that rely on your graveyard to have things in them, there's really no downside to this, where it's like you're putting something in your graveyard which you can probably get back anyways, or which is probably going to help your search flip. I wouldn't be surprised to see some discussions as to which is better, whether you want Glimmer of Genius or whether you want this. We've seen tools like Cast Down, and this and Cast Down could make blue-black control a thing. Sure. That's been kind of hovering on the fringe for a while. I actually really like this.
Yeah, I think this card's great. It harkens back to a Bitter Revelation, which was also very highly playable in Limited. I think that this is, you're definitely playing 1. You might play 2 in your Limited decks. Being instant speed is a huge deal. Less relevant that in Limited putting stuff into your graveyard, but certainly there's lots of Scarab God and Godpharaoh's Gift kind of tricks that you can do with Dark Bargain. There's a couple of interesting ways to reanimate stuff, one of which we'll talk about later in the Black Set review, that are begging to be used. I think that the Scry 2, Draw 2 versus look at the top 3 and pick 2 is an interesting discussion, and Black very rarely gets instant speed draw.
Yeah.
And so you can play this in a non-blue deck and have a control deck, something like an Abzan control or something along those lines. And this can be your engine, which I really like a lot too.
Shout out to a classic character, Nivinral, in the flavor text. That was a nice callback to Nivinral's disc, and that was neat.
Oh man, the flavor, the art, the offering of the random thing is great. He's bargaining with some random junk seller, which is crazy. The card in and of itself is a very good card. It's not a card you first pick, slam dunk or whatever. Right. It's not a card you want a whole ton of. But in and of itself, to have 1 of, particularly I would love to have 2 in my seal deck personally. Yeah. But for draft, you probably only want 1. Just because while it's powerful and it's good, you can't spend most of your 4 drops or your turn 4s or your turn 5 sitting around dealing damage yourself and drawing cards versus affecting the board and playing.
And the reason for that, by the way, we didn't really talk about the very briefly, the difference between sealed and draft is that draft tends to be faster because you get to sculpt what cards you're picking as opposed to sealed, where you're entirely left open to what you happen to open. And so while the top-end sealed decks can be as powerful as even standard decks if you open really well, limited decks tend to be more powerful, faster, more streamlined, and so that's why you can't spend as much time spending 4 mana to draw 2 cards.
Right. That doesn't mean this card's bad and or may not see constructive play.
Absolutely.
They're just different animals. Deathbloom Thallid is a black and 2 generic mana for a 3/2 common fungus. And when it dies, you create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. Now, as we'll get into this, there are lots of creatures and or effects that want you to sacrifice creatures, and as a result, you get benefits from that. So this dying gives you a creature back. A 3 mana 3/2 in and of itself that gives you a 1/1 back is fine.
Fine.
I'm totally okay with that.
I'm happy playing only this. Yeah, I would be happy to have 5 of these in my deck. It's just it's a 3 mana, 3 power creature that when it dies gives you a little bit of value. This is our first of the Thallids that we've seen, which means that this is the first of the Saprolings that we've seen, with the Saprolings coming back, which I really like quite a bit. And the new art direction for the Thallids and the Saprolings I really enjoy in this new set. They are delightful.
They seem almost fun.
Yes.
I feel like in the past there was really an emphasis on making them creepy, and I appreciate creepy. Obviously, I'm a black mage, but I think it's a neat direction to take them in where they're almost cute in a way. Whereas before it was like, let's really freak people out with these, and it's nice.
Right. Where now it's just like, oh, you're just so adorable.
Yeah. And I look at them and I'm like, I've definitely had that in my fridge before.
Wow.
Like when I forgot to clean out the back of the, I've definitely seen some Deathbloom Thallids.
Wow.
Hiding in my cheese drawer.
The colors of the wind in there, huh?
It's not great.
All right, so that said, in sealed draft, this card is value. This card is good. It replaces itself. 2 chump blockings of their biggest monster that scares you.
Usually a trade and then a block, which is nice.
Which is the optimal. That's the chef's kiss version of Deathbloom Thallid. Demonic Vigor is 1 black for a common enchantment aura. Enchant creature gets +1/+1, and when enchanted creature dies, return that card to its owner's hand, which is really interesting because you can, remember, play this in different ways. You don't necessarily enchant your own creatures. You can enchant their creature, but that's not going to, that's terrible, isn't it?
It's pretty bad.
Think of the card.
Now that I said it out loud, I'm like, you can do this.
Right.
Wait, that's
so
don't
there
do
was
that.
a card called Shade's Form that was printed in the first Torment, which was colorless black, and gave it the Shade ability. But when that creature died, you put it back into play under your control.
Okay.
That might have been where you were headed.
That's
with
sort of
that.
where I was thinking about, because I was like, oh, you get the card to do that?
Yeah.
You don't get the
The
card.
owner's hand.
Think of the value from just the previous card we looked at. So you get the 3/2.
Yep.
It dies. You get a 1/1. The 3/2 comes back to your hand, and you do it all over again.
And
Like, that's good
it's
living.
a 4/3.
Yeah.
So when you put this on that, it's a really cheap effect. I'm not sure we've even seen this effect for this cheap before.
We've seen, I remember back in Innistrad, we did target creature gets Undying until end of turn.
Oh yeah, sure. Undying Evil. But you definitely get to reuse your cast effects with this, which is nice and relevant for Historic. So interesting card. Not planning on playing a ton of these, but yeah.
All right, moving on here from Demonic Vigor to Demon Lord Belzenlock, the Demon Lord himself. 2 black, 4 generic mana for a 6/6 legendary Elder Demon mythic rare. It has flying and trample, so you already have a 6 mana flying, trampling 6/6.
Yep.
When it enters the battlefield, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card, then put that card in your hand. If that card's converted mana cost is 4 or greater, repeat this process. Demon Lord Belzenlock deals 1 damage to you for each card put into your hand this way. Boy, I love the phrase repeat this process.
Yeah.
I just need repeat this
As
process.
an ad nauseum fan, you probably, this is not ad nauseum.
Yeah.
Ad nauseum,
No.
this is not, but it is a 6/6 flying trample for 6.
It is a monster bomb in limited.
So how do you stop it?
Crazy bomb.
Well, first of all, you don't stop it until you get a 2-drop or a 3-drop.
You don't stop until you get enough. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You don't
No,
stop.
I'm just trying to visualize. So you exile cards from the top until you exile. Okay, got it.
So I'm going to
you
exile
stop
a
at the
land,
first-
set that one aside. Exile a 4-drop. Hey, Bitter Revelation, put it in my hand. Exile another 5.
Okay,
put it in
I
my
was
hand.
worried it was just
Exile
going
a
to go.
2.
I'm like, oh no.
So
Stop
then,
and deal
right,
game.
then so you exile the 2, you'll get the 2 and then lose 3 life once you draw those 3 cards.
Got it. Okay, I read that wrong. I was like, is it going to stop? Like, oh no.
No, it's okay. Kylo Ren is usually misunderstood. which, I mean, this is the, the wide body, shirtless with the pants up to above the, I don't know what's happening.
I'm not sure. It's fine. This is a Kai Buddha, wizard in the...
Yeah, with the big giant
Hey, I
championship belt.
appreciate a demon with some Buddha. I'm not opposed. Just...
Wow.
Well, Demon Lord himself, that whole paragraph of whatever, does not need to be there for this to be a limited monster bomb.
You're always drawing a card for a life with this, at least. Sometimes 2 cards for 2 life, sometimes 3 cards for 3 life. Sometimes you're accidentally killing yourself when you draw, when you're at 5 and then you draw the rest of the 4 drops in your deck. That's but he's a Demon Lord. Sometimes that's going to happen.
Yeah, I say this be obviously a big hit in Sealed, big hit in Commander. I'm not really sure where it fits in Standard, but...
I mean, card advantage is as card advantage does, and this card gives you that.
Yep.
On top of a 6 mana, 6/6 flying.
We definitely have the groundwork for a nice mono black control deck, so maybe this could be the finisher.
Absolutely.
Everybody wants mono black control, mono black whatever, until they get it, and they're like, oh my god, I hate everything about mono black, whatever. Divest is next. It is 1 black for a common sorcery. Target player reveals their hand. You choose an artifact or creature card from it. That player discards that card. This is a really interesting take on a 1 black discard spell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned mono black control, and the last time we had a mono black control, it was Thoughtseize and the Pack Rat, which made, mono black rather oppressive. But, this isn't so bad. I know, again, this is another card that the Pauper kids are excited about. Being able to get an artifact or creature, from a turn 1, duress type effect is really good. So I think they'll definitely see some play in Pauper. Standard always finds a home for this. We do have duress currently, but, again, being able to nab a creature quickly, especially if it's a creature that you otherwise couldn't deal with, being able to grab an early Carnage Tyrant or an early God, can really go a long way.
The thing, the adorableness factor of Dominaria is through the roof, and this is another one. This guy is a little bit menacing, but a little bit adorable, which I always appreciate. Very much like the fairies from Lorwyn, who's just
That's the vibe I got,
a little creepy, but also I'm for it. Oh, by the way, the Fallen Empires reference in the flavor text.
Oh, so nice. I mean, the little adorable thing cracked his head open and pulled out a magical memory.
Just because you're adorable doesn't mean you're not super dangerous.
Super dangerous. This is ultimately a card that I might play one of. I'm more inclined to play it in Sealed than in Draft.
I typically don't play this effect in my draft decks.
For this to be in a draft deck, they have to have a stupid bomb. They have to have their own Demon Lords or whatever, and I can't deal with them.
They have to show you a 6 or 7 mana giant idiot in order for you to really want to divest.
Yeah. Dreadshade is next, one of the best of the tricolor cards. Black, black, black for a rare shade. That is a 3/3 and has black : Dreadshade gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So I was talking to my buddy Chris, who we know.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, have you seen this shade? Because my God, does it throw it? Am I right? And he was like, well, it's just like Frozen Shade, right? And I was like, Frozen Shade. I was like, oh, black and 2 generic mana for a 1/1 that has the shade ability? No. We're in a whole different planet here. As a 3 mana, 3/3, pumps for 1 black mana.
Yeah.
That is a very, very powerful card. And Tuco Shade used to be a 2 black, 2/1 with the shade ability. That defined a format.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is defining formats because Magic's different now, but I'm saying that Dreadshade is a pushed Magic card. And if you're looking for the mono blacks of the world, this is exactly the type of card you'll play for.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point in that, we've seen shades throughout the history of Magic, but they tend to start out really small. Yeah. They don't come out of the gate with a good sturdy 3/3 body.
A lot of 4 mana 1/1s.
Yeah, and so this one comes out of the gate as a 3/3, and there are ways to make a lot of black mana in this format, which we'll certainly talk about, and that sort of just feeds right into it. Comes out at very good stats and just gets even better from there, which is unheard of.
Another reference to the fall of the House of Vess, which we got a little bit of in M25, and we get a little bit more of here in Dominaria. Yeah. Talking about the formation of the Caligo Morass.
Going back to Caligo Skin Witch.
Right, there you go. Calling back to that to let you know how that came about, which I think is pretty interesting.
That's sweet. I mean, Dreadshade ultimately, again, it's very much just like Timogen, right? Yeah. It's still good on turn 5. It's still good as, it's just a 3/3. With this one, you can actually pump mana into it. Mm-hmm. So if you're able to get the 3 swamps, again, it doesn't care about basic swamps, as others could. Just getting that, +1/+1, go. Great. Card's fantastic. Drudge Settle, very close to Drudge Skeletons.
Yep.
is a black and 2 generic mana, 2/1. It is a common skeleton warrior. And for 3 generic mana, tap Drudge Sentinel, it gains indestructible until end of turn. This is a very nice, clear way of showing that Wizards doesn't do regenerate anymore. And instead of regenerate, we make them indestructible because it's a lot more grokkable, it's a lot more understandable. If you say, hey, this is indestructible, you can't kill it, versus like, this has a regeneration shield. When it has a shield, it means it goes away. If it goes away, it means I tap it. It means a tap it removes from combat. You got to know that and understand that for all of this to work. You go, well, it's just indestructible.
This is much easier, absolutely. And it's a definite signal to us old school players where the first line of text is tap Drudge Sentinel, which was part of the effect on regenerate. And that was a difficult thing for early players.
So let me ask you, so if it's already tapped, you can't do it?
No, you can't. It's 3 colorless colon.
Okay, cool.
It's part of the effect. If it's already tapped, then the tap Drudge Sentinel isn't going to affect again. But
it's just redundant.
Colorless cost, splashable. You know, if you are playing more than one color and limited, that'll certainly help. And I really appreciate the flavor text here, sort of the dark humor of it. Of you have all the food and the rest you need, and it's like, well,
That's like because they're dead.
Because you'll be dead.
Exactly. It's like, oh, what are they paying you now? 0?
Yeah.
I'll triple it. Like sort of that level of humor of like, they'll get everything they need. They don't need anything, but they'll get all they need.
Right. Ultimately, in limited, this is much better in sealed than in draft because you're more or less dealing with problems oftentimes in sealed. You're like, okay, your biggest, scariest thing, I'm going to pay 3 mana a turn so you don't kill me with it until I find an answer or something changes.
Throw this in front of the demon from Chainer's Torment. That feels bad. Where you're just like...
Yeah. We were talking about a lot of these ground stalls that sometimes develop in limited games where you're like, I just need to end the game. Drudge Sentinel's going to lead to a couple of those.
Yeah. It is. Theeldest Reborn. A new saga, a black and 4 generic mana uncommon enchantment saga. It has, of course, 3 chapters. The first chapter says each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Chapter 2 says each opponent discards a card. And Chapter 3, put target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control.
This is fine.
This is totally fine. It's weird. This is one of the clearest examples to me of like a sort of a suspend card.
Yeah.
Where, like, you want the third ability. You're paying 5 mana for that zombify.
That first ability is no joke, though. I mean,
but it's good, right?
Yeah.
It's still good.
And to be clear, the creature or planeswalker can be from any graveyard.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be from theirs. So you could have something in yours, and if theirs isn't good enough. I really like this card. This is another card I intend to try with Muldrotha in either Brawl or Commander, again, being a saga that you can bring back again. And there aren't many ways to make people sacrifice planeswalkers. Like, that's a neat little... Sometimes you get those really sassy opponents where you have a Diabolic Edict, and there's nothing really... Like, I just got a planeswalker. Yeah, that too.
Right.
Like, just sacrifice something. And so...
Other than Obsidat's Aid, this is the only way to get a planeswalker back from your graveyard. I'm really excited for I assume there will be an attempt at making a sort of Nicol Bolas, either version, either the dual deck version or the pack version, discarding that. Once you play the turn 5 Eldest Reborn, make your opponent sacrifice one of theirs, then when you untap, maybe play a loot effect and put your Nicol Bolas into the graveyard.
Because he is the eldest,
He is
right?
the eldest.
Okay.
This is retelling the story of how Nicol Bolas came back into being.
Make that
happen. So that would be interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, for me, you're working for that last ability.
Yes.
It's fantastic that there is an edict on the front end of this, because if you're going to pay 5 mana and get an edict effect, that's not the greatest card in the world.
Uncommon.
Yeah,
wow.
Uncommon, which I was expecting this to be rare. To be honest. When they showed this on the
This one
FAQ,
looks like it. This one feels like a rare for sure.
Right. When they showed it on the FAQ and like, here's how this thing works, I was like, oh, well, that's a rare one. That one's super cool because you're gonna zombify whatever.
Right.
But the fact that you can get even multiples of them in limited, I think could be legitimately scary. This thing is way, way better in sealed than in draft. Sure. Just for mana cost, efficiency things. But ultimately, I'm totally happy playing lots of these.
Yeah.
Eldest Reborn is totally sweet. Eviscerate.
God.
Ladies and gentlemen, your removal spell for the set.
Art.
A black and 3 generic mana for a common sorcery. Destroy target creature. Now, we used to have murder.
We'll never get murder back.
I would like to get murder back.
The card's way too good.
I think it's fine.
I don't think it's too good. I think
For limited, it's miserable.
Wizards likes to push and pull.
They can put it in
levers,
uncommon.
And they can put it in uncommon. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, this is common. It's sorcery speed.
Yep.
It's 4 mana. It kills a thing. There was already one in Ixalan just like it.
It was Impale, which was 2 black, and even it was a reasonable first pick common in a crappy pack. So this being splashable, just super clean text, destroy target creature, you're going to play every copy of this that you pick up.
Art is incredibly grisly.
Oh, absolutely.
Art, super grisly. Congratulations on the thing. Out your chest. And if it needs to be said in limited, you go ahead and pick it first pack if you want to. If there's something else better in there, no problem. All the sealed, play everyone you can in sealed, play lots in draft. It's removal. It doesn't get much better than that. Feral Abomination is next. A black and 5 generic mana for a 5/5 Death Touch Thrall. It is a common, and it also sort of asks the question, when they're 5/5s, do they need Death Touch?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about on a show recently about all the 6/6s that have Death Touch in Magic history. There's a couple, but it's like, what are we touching with death that we weren't already killing is the question.
Gitrog monster already killing you.
Right.
You don't need that.
When Grave Titan enters the red zone, it's already killing everything. Right. Feral Abomination. Now, the real key here is that if they block it with 2 3/3s, you get to kill both of their creatures. Yeah. That's what we're talking about in limited. Sure. Thralls have definitely taken on a different shape. I remember when Thralls were itty bitty and were the responsible for servicing other larger beings. This Thrall is the boss. It's a 5/5. Like, we're not sacrificing this to get a black mana or to make an opponent discard a card like Fallen Empire style Thralls.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point. Thrall is a creature type that we typically only see in certain sets. We had the Fallen Empires version. I think they were in Return to Ravnica as the Orzhov Thralls. Sure. Like, they had their, I think their servants were called Thralls as well, but that's not a creature type we see all the time. I love the flavor text of this, of the, the swamp gossip monger who's like, this used to be a really nice place, respectable lich lords, and now it's gone to the worms, and that also, flavor text is gold.
The flavor text being responsible from Mr. Lost Spoons. Boy, that is a delightful.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Mr. Lost Spoons.
Yeah. I would cosplay as Mr. Lost Spoons and put on a jacket made entirely of spoons, but unfortunately, I've lost it.
I thought you were going to say you didn't have the spoons.
I don't, because I lost them all.
Because the spoons are gone.
Because I am Mr. Lost Spoons.
So, limited, this is not a card that I pick early. I think you're going to see a lot of them late. This is, it's a fine creature, particularly in sealed. It's much better, because obviously you're going to get the 6 mana more often. But overall, not that great. Weird. Scary. Final Party is 2 black, 3 generic mana for a uncommon sorcery. Search your library for 2 cards, put one into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Then shuffle your library. This is Aaron Campbell's Invitational card. You just don't even know it.
This is basically like a build your own reanimation spell, where it's like you can put exactly, how far we've come when we had Entomb at 1 black. And now you have to pay 5 for an Entomb, basically. But, you can search for exactly what you need and put it in the graveyard, and you find something that can bring that thing back, and you have a party. And, there's been some talk about whether or not this could see play in older formats, like specifically Legacy. If you find a reanimate and a fatty, sometimes games go long and you can't get through a Deathrite Shaman, or you spend your first couple turns trying to get through something, and when you finally eliminate that, you're like, okay, where was I? And so you go for what you were trying to do. And again, even in standard, it's like, I think there could be room for this somewhere, but I love this kind of card. And
Diabolic Tutor cost 4 for an extra mana. You get to put something in your graveyard. We've seen Gerard's Orders before, which saw fringe standard play, and that only lets you, it cost a mana less, but it only lets you get creatures. This allows you to go get the spell half. Yeah. This being a story card as well, telling the story of Liliana's brother that was first told in Magic Origins, and now we get some additional detail in that. And also, by the way, we've hashtag Scalebirds. These are Scale Ravens, and so keep an eye out for the Ravens, because the Raven Man has yet to make his full appearance as the Raven Man, which is a character from way back in the day.
Speaking of the art, you'll notice that the manner in the background is the same background of Liliana Heretical Healer. So you'll notice that same sort of pristine locale is kind of where it all got started.
And they're back there for a reason, and I'll talk about when we get to her brother's card, essentially, Josu. But, either way, the idea that Diabolic Tutor plus something, they're getting more and more okay with that. Yeah. Basically saying, if you're going to pay at least 4 mana, you can go get whatever you want. And if you pay some more mana, we can do some stuff with it. Right. Or alongside of it. So you go get 2 cards instead of 1, but the one has to go in your graveyard. So you can really set up whatever sort of combo you would like. And that's really interesting. This to me is very similar to what I would describe as, sort of the fork stuff, the copy effects of like, it's not that, once you pay 4 mana to go get 1 card, it's not that good. It doesn't affect the board. It doesn't really give you an immediate value. Right. So you have to wait a whole nother turn for that to do anything. And so we're starting to see, I think, riffs on that, which is really interesting. Plus, we actually get to see her kill her brother. That's weird. Fungal Infection. Ooh. A super cool combat trick. 1 black for a common instant. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token. This card is value. This card will destroy your opponent in not only were you able to shrink something and make a blocker,
Yeah.
often you're able to kill something, make a blocker.
Saffron Olive had written a tweet the other day that was talking about mono red in standard, and he was like, yeah, you can -1 a Bomat Courier and then make a sap rolling that'll block an Earthshaker Kenra.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you
Brutal.
flirting with me right now? And I was like, that is where I want to be in life.
Yeah.
For 1 black mana, that is delicious.
Yeah, for 1 black mana at instant speed, you theoretically can get a 2-for-1 out of it, but 80% of the time, 90% of the time, it's just going to kill a 2/2, which is also perfectly fine for 1 black mana.
Which is fine.
And I love the art.
There was Skullduggery from
Sure.
Ixalan, which did something a little bit different. You gave a +1/+1 to a creature you control. This one actually creates a creature for you. So again, if you just want to make something smaller and trade with something else, if you want to have a creature out and I need a creature, I got a creature. You don't have to necessarily do that.
Yeah, the opportunity cost on Fungal Infection is much lower. Skullduggery required 2 targets. This only requires 1.
Right.
So yeah, this is a nice one.
This is a cool card. Again, not something you want infinite of. You don't want to first pick something like this or whatever, but you want to play it in your sealed decks. You want to get some mid to late in your draft decks, and it's going to be solid. If you've played Skullduggery, you'll know exactly how this kind of card plays, which is good, which is very good.
Fungal Duggery.
Josu Ves, Lich Knight. 2 black, 2 generic mana for a 4/5 rare legendary zombie knight. It has kicker of a black and 5 generic mana. It has menace, and when Josu Ves Lich Knight enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create 8 2/2 black zombie knight creature tokens with menace. They have menace.
The tokens have menace.
For no good reason. Actual 0.
The purpose is so that we can print different zombie tokens that are specifically zombie knight tokens.
With menace.
Yeah.
So,
boy, this card.
Josu Ves, really interesting backstory. Now, the thing was that Josu was sick. He got sick. Oh my God, he's going to die. Liliana's freaking out. Liliana's family says, hey, go in the woods and get this specific herb and we can fix it. And he'll heal him up. Well, turns out they burned all the trees or whatever that had that herb. But she ran into somebody, which I believe was the Raven Man, who said, hey, this will fix your brother, but you really don't want to do it. And she's like, whatever, I want to fix my bro. So she grabs that, she takes it, she gives it to him, and it cures him.
Which was Tainted Remedy.
The card Tainted Remedy,
Because the remedy was tainted, he got taint. And as a result, when you go straight taint, you're going to die. So he turned into a zombie and started killing people. And Liliana, as being a necromancer, she finally got to her wits' end. She resurrected, she reanimated zombies of the people that her brother killed. As a result of doing that, ignited her spark and flew off to Innistrad. Okay, cut back to, she brings Josu, and so Josu later, as he's roaming the countryside being a crazy madman, he is turned into a lich by the Cabal.
Sure.
And then Liliana comes back, finds that he's been turned into a lich, whatnot. Well, the only way to save him, to cure him, is to bring him back to where it started, to bring him back home. So she brings him back home, she breaks the lich spell, and then she eventually, I believe that kills him as a result of breaking the lich spell. So she kind of frees him, but ultimately what he says to her is that, I wasn't the curse on this family, you were the curse on this family. So really just digging it in on Liliana.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is this card is unbelievably awesome and may very well be a standard all-star.
I mean, a 4/5
on the
at
Vorthos
worst,
there.
a 4/5 with Menace is fine.
Yeah,
but
4/5
the
for
kicker
4
alone
with
is
Menace.
just basically game over. It's sort of like the kind of a callback to cards like Army of the Damned and Zombie. Just where you sort of endless ranks of the dead. You just get a whole bunch of zombies and you have to deal with this. And quite good.
Yeah, 4/5 Menace for 4 already very, very, very good. 10 mana make 20 power. Even better.
Yeah, and relevant creature types. We still have zombies left over from Amonkhet, Lord of the Accursed and things of that nature. Knight, we certainly covered a lot of knights in the white review that we did. Being only 2 and 2 black, you could easily find room for white cards in this. I mean, both the creature types are very doable. You can do things with them too. There's a lot you can do with this card.
This is a limited bomb, if I have to tell you.
Yeah.
This is a 100% play every copy. If I opened 2 in my sealed pool, I'd just be bragging on Twitter. It'd be ridiculous. Card is bananas. If someone passed me another one after I open one in draft, I
just look at them. What's
going on with your life, man? What's up with your life choices? You give me them Josu Vesses. Kazarov Singular Pureblood.
Callback.
I know, right? For 2 black and 5 generic mana for a 4/4 rare legendary vampire. It has flying. Whenever a creature an opponent controls is dealt damage, put a +1/+1 counter on Kazarov Singular Pureblood. For a red and 3 generic mana Kazarov deals 2 damage to target creature. Because Singer Vampire was a card.
Yep.
The Singer family, essentially, was a Baron Singer himself, was also this mana cost.
And that's kind of what I have some questions about. So they say that this is a Sengir pureblood, but we never saw any red Sengirs, did we?
No.
So I'm kind of curious as to how it's supposed to be the pure Sengir, but now that's got like almost a red... We saw that a lot with Innistrad, that there were red vampires, but I'm kind of curious how we got here.
I think it doesn't purely suck. I think that's what they're trying to do, because all of that... You know,
vampires suck.
Yeah.
It works on so many levels. But like back in the day, there was Singer Vampire, which was a 5 mana 4/4 that had this ability of whenever a creature an opponent controls is dealt damage. I believe it's when it goes.
I think it's when they die.
When they die, it gets a +1/+1 counter.
Right.
Well, now you get to have another ability that keeps dealing damage, makes it bigger. It kind of helps pay off the 7 mana, because that's a lot of mana.
Big investment, but it is also a big payoff. A 4/4 flyer is no joke. You play this on turn 7 and then turn 8. You have 8 mana. You get to use the ability twice. If you don't want to spend any cards, you get to immediately put counters on your Kazarov. Just a very impressive creature. I would be not unhappy to first pick this in any limited environment. And I might even switch into black if I open this in pack 2, because the effect is just outstanding.
Commander, this allows you to play Rakdos if he is your commander. I think he fits in really nicely with sort of the Edgar Markov decks that have kind of sprung up and other vampire decks. And I think it'll definitely have a home in EDH, but it's a lot for standard. Yeah,
ultimately, this is a 7-drop, so if the draft format is super fast, this card is unplayable in draft. Yeah. The same thing happened in formats like Zendikar that was super fast, or in Ixalan, honestly, that was super fast. You just can't play those 7-drops, they're just too expensive. In Seal, this card is huge, probably bomb-worthy is my guess, because it's really tough to lose when you untap with this guy.
Yes.
If they have an answer for it, whatever, but if they don't, wow, this card is nuts. Knight of Malice is the other half of our knights that we spoke of earlier. A black and a generic mana for a 2/2 uncommon human knight with first strike and hexproof from white. This creature can't be the target of white spells or abilities your opponents control. Knight of Malice gets +1/+0 as long as any player controls a white permanent. So these knights are still super good. Basically everything we said then applies here.
Yeah.
You're going to play it every single time. It's got super cool bonuses. It doesn't take much to get that bonus. Hexproof from white is way more exciting and interesting and even more flavorful than protection from white.
Yes.
And again, it's a diptych.
Absolutely.
Which Aaron likes the most.
When I diptych, you diptych, we diptych.
Hey.
That's well done. Also, I forgot to mention that the flavor texts are actually referencing each other. This one is the shadow to swallow the light. The other one is the light to dissipate the darkness or something along those lines. Yeah. Just super powerful card. Very, very good.
Very nice. All right. So for Lich's Mastery, one of Aaron's favorites, we have a special guest. Let's see who it is.
Who is this?
Hey there, Magic Mikes. I'm Ilyon from Twitch and from YouTube, and I know how to appropriately pander to the people that are on your TV show. I don't think he's super happy, though. My favorite card from Dominaria was really, really hard to pick. I almost went the extra mile for pandering and picked Arcane Flight because it's got a flying cat. But I'm going to have to go with Lich's Mastery. I love this card. It's crazy and weird, but that's kind of everything that I really like about Magic. Dominaria, as a lot of people have kind of pointed out, and as Wizards is trying to make it, is definitely a bit of a nostalgia bomb, right? And I just don't feel nostalgia for any card as much as I do for Lich's Mastery, which might feel weird for some people, because it's not like a story card, it's not a card that's about anything like that, but along the way, as I started doing more and more Magic, in the last little while I've been feeling a little bit disconnected, and I think that you kind of get that way if you play for a really, really long time, and if you make a lot of content and you're trying to be competitive, you lose a little core piece of what started you on the path, a little bit of the magic. And what I really like to do, and what I used to do a lot, was make really, really bad combos out of super fun cards. And you may or may not know some of those as things like Nefarious Lich. And my first real combo deck that I remember, where I built it myself and lovingly crafted it and sat down across from somebody playing Magic at a kitchen table, was Nefarious Lich Words of Worship. So Words of Worship is a card that when you draw a card, you can instead pay 1 and gain life instead. So you gain 5 life. And Nefarious Lich, much like Lich's Mastery, will draw you cards equal to the life you've gained. So you would just combo that out, draw your whole deck, and win the game. Just ignore the fact that Nefarious Lich says that if it leaves the game, you lose. You just gotta ignore that. And so Lich's Mastery, to me, kind of just like, the minute I saw it, I had that, little beating in my heart where I remembered a little bit of something that I really loved from Magic from a long time ago. And the funny thing is I think this card's actually kind of good. I don't know that I'm the person to break a combo with it, but this version has hexproof, so people can't just disenchant it and kill you, which was kind of a problem with some of the other ones. And you also can't lose the game. The other one says you lose the game on it a lot. This one says you can't lose the game, which is pretty important. So, I don't know. I think that Lich's Mastery actually looks pretty interesting. Basically, what you're doing is you're drawing cards for life, so there's a way to combo that out and make some really silly things happen. It's expensive. It is 6 mana. It's triple black. But I think that if you enjoy playing weird, wacky combos, there's something there. Even if it's just at your kitchen table, there's something there to be had for you. And Dominaria is full of that. Dominaria really feels like a set that's just absolutely steeped in nostalgia. And that's, it might not hit on for everybody, but for me, my favorite card is Lich's Mastery for that.
Wow. Well, thank you, Ilyon, for hanging out.
I love his kitty.
Oh, super cool kitty. Super cool card.
I didn't realize we were so cat-centric.
Yeah.
That's not a facet of my personal identity, but I've learned something about myself today.
Yeah.
And also the casual shade thrown at our previous Arcane Flight reference folks. So it's like, if I went for maximum pander, geez, okay.
Wow.
Well,
aggressive.
Not wrong.
Not necessarily. And this card is terrific. Lich's Mastery is 3 black, 3 generic mana for a rare legendary enchantment that does have hexproof. That does say you can't lose the game on it. Whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. Whenever you lose life, for each 1 life you lost, exile a permanent you control or a card from your hand or graveyard. When Lich's Mastery leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. This is just a Johnny playground. This is first of all, it's Josu Vess at like his maximum awesomeness as a Lich Lord, which is really cool and flavorful. But ultimately, this is like, what can you do? How you going to do it? Yeah. Let's keep it weird. All right, go.
This reminds me of Demonic Pact, which was another card that really just dripped flavor in terms of black, of like putting yourself so close to death.
Yeah.
But if you can make it pay off, and if you can manipulate that, whether you're bouncing Demonic Pact or using the Harmless Offering to give it to somebody, you can find a way to make that work in your favor. And that to me just screams black. The being so close to death, the sort of doing anything to survive kind of thing. I love the art. Shout out to Darken, who's another face that we don't see too much of. The candles are really what strike me in this piece. They just look so real. I love sort of the things that you could do with this. We've talked about Approach of the Second Sun, where you gain 7 life, using the number of cards that you have as sort of expendable life that you discard. Even just the Healing Salve, prevent 3, gain 3, sounds fine. I hope that somebody breaks this, because I would 100% play this.
I don't know if this can be broken.
Well, not broken, but I hope that somebody at least tries to do something with it.
I mean, this was another one that was directly from Richard Garfield's Memory Warehouse. He brought this one in, and I think they rebalanced the cost a little bit, but it effectively did all the same things. It had hexproof, and it was a fixed Lich. He actually wrote a Facebook post about how one of his biggest disappointments from the early days of Magic was the card Lich. He really wanted to tell a story, but also be uber powerful, and then it never did anything. And previous attempts to use Lich magic as referenced by Ilyon, Nefarious Lich, and other things like that, haven't really worked out. This one, where you get to use your hand as a resource, where you get to use your graveyard as a resource for your life, having hexproof, those are all big deals that actually might bridge the gap. Now, again, this is 6 mana. It's a lot, but you immediately get a lot of effects that you wouldn't otherwise have. You get can't lose the game is a heck of a sentence, and your life total becomes equivalent to everything that's come out of your library in the game. Your graveyard, your hand, your permanents, everything. Sure. And so your life total effectively will go to like 30, which is pretty great, which is going to give you a great opportunity to untap, cast Approach of the Second Sun, gain 7 life. Oh, by the way, draw 7 cards. That's the Son of a Lich combo that we had referenced on other ones. Yeah.
Now, is this? I certainly don't expect
Lich is
this.
back.
I certainly don't expect this to see play in Modern. But has there been a Lich effect that's been Modern legal? Like Nefarious was.
I don't think so. I don't think there's been a Lich effect that was Modern legal.
Okay.
And in Modern, you get stuff like Starfield of Nyx. There's lots of interesting ways to reanimate this.
You got your work cut out for you,
and
my
so
friend.
yeah.
This is definitely an against all odds.
I will be there for that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, this to me is just a Johnny Paradise. This
Absolutely.
is what Johnny wants to do: is get a weird card that does a bunch of whole weird things. You take advantage of it and run with it.
Yep.
That said, don't play this in limited.
No,
Please.
do not play this in limited.
Please.
I would
don't.
100%.
This one is a trap. Do not play this in limited. You only have 40 cards in your deck. So unless you're making a bunch of tokens, like if you're able to gain a bunch of Lich life with your kicked make 4 Saprolings,
No.
maybe.
Get in spaceship. No.
Yeah, but no, don't play this guy.
It's fine. Constructed. This is about having fun and constructing decks. And your Brawl decks and your Commander decks and your Johnny decks. This is not a limited card. Lingering Phantom is next. It's a black and 5 generic mana for a 5/4 uncommon spirit. Whenever you cast a historic spell, you may pay 1 black, and if you do, return Lingering Phantom from your graveyard to your hand.
Oof, so close.
This card is sweet. This card lets you, discard freely for Dark Bargain, for example, and then later you play literally any artifact ever. An extra black, you have a 5/4.
Yeah.
They kill it.
Yeah.
Any artifact, any legend, whatever. 1 black, you have a 5/4. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Very annoying threat to try to deal with.
This is going to be a great limited card.
Yeah.
There's probably an engine here where, if you're using your loot effects, where you draw a card, discard your Lingering Phantom, pay a black, get it back, do looting again, it's effectively drawing you a card when you build your deck around it. Being a 5-power creature for 6 mana, better than the common Thrall, for example. At the cost of a toughness, you get the ability to play it 5, 6, 7 times over the course of a long slogging game.
Right.
And if you're playing for a 6-mana creature, that's probably the situation that you're in. The historic spell trigger is definitely going to be relevant, of course. So I anticipate that if this sees any, first of all, you're going to play it in your limited decks.
Yeah.
Typically just the 1.
Yeah.
And if it is able to bridge over to standard, there are ways to do it, to be able to use the trigger, but it's going to be a lot.
I mean, literally, I don't know. I actually have a tinge on this. I have a feeling because if I loot, Faithless Looting, if I Cathartic Reunion, if I can just get these in the
Tormenting
graveyard,
Voice, sure.
play 1 mana artifact, 1 mana artifact, add a black to it, I have a 5/4. Like that's. Those are very powerful plays.
I mean,
It goes to your
it
hand,
puts to your hand. I mean,
Oh, it goes to your...
It doesn't go into play. No.
believe me, if it were graveyard, I'd be.
No, but it
to your
still
hand.
draws you a card. Like, it doesn't put it into play.
That's fair. That said, okay, so in that point, we're different lens.
Yeah.
Sealed, it's great.
Still value.
Draft, it's...
Sure.
Yeah.
But in sealed, it would be terrific. Sorry, I thought I went to the battlefield, which would be dumb and crazy powerful. Speaking of dumb and crazy powerful, Phyrexian Scriptures is next. A 2 black, 2 generic mana mythic enchantment saga. There's a reason it's mythic. Its first chapter puts a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. That creature becomes an artifact in addition to its other types. And its second chapter destroys all non-artifact creatures. And its third chapter exiles all cards from all opponents' graveyards.
There you go.
Which is awesome.
Yikes.
And
So
it has,
this one's interesting because it's the second chapter you want.
Yeah.
It's the first one where we've had we want chapter 1, we want chapter 3. 2, I think, is where we're
right
at.
into.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that this is a mythic, again, signals that, hey, this card's probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's the closest thing we've had to Damnation since Damnation.
It's 2 colorless and 2 black, and it has the word destroy all creatures. I mean, there's another word in there, but it's close.
To the whatever.
It's close enough.
I mean, good thing there's this ridiculous Planeswalker that you could play
Yeah, right?
that makes artifact creatures or anything. Whenever you play this, you make something an artifact creature.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying, okay, next turn, world's ending. You cool with this? Because this guy right here is totally cool with this.
Art is incredibly grisly. You see sort of somebody that appears to be on an altar. You know, the blood leaking down seems to be filling cracks that has, you know, text or maybe, you know, images.
And also the symbol of Yawgmoth, which is the Apocalypse set symbol.
The Vorthoses have already gone to work translating what those symbols mean.
Nice.
You can find that on Reddit. Yeah, this card is great.
Got that new Phyrexia watermark on the Saga
Yeah,
side.
this was our first taste of what the Sagas looked like. This is how they introduced the look to us. And yeah.
Heck of a card. That Damnation is no joke. The +1/+1 counter and turning it into an artifact, that's not great, but you know what? Whatever.
It's fine. And
the third ability combos nicely with Fall of the Thran as well, if you're able to do both of those effects at the same time. So maybe there's something there. Being able to wipe the board of all lands and all creatures would be something I'd be interested in.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, that's relevant to my interests. Yeah. And I think this is a Phyrexian altar, as I recall.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
The actual Phyrexian altar itself, and again, the blood thing, the artwork is beautiful. Like, this was also the first time, like, you know, when they showed this for the first time, and Magic players were like, whoa, what's happening? Why do we have half a card split down the middle? And I see the things, and that's not okay. Magic cards can't look like this. And I don't think it took long for people just to come around.
Yeah, I was not impressed with the Sagas the first time I saw them. They really had to grow on me, and now I think they're okay. But I was in the camp initially where I was like,
no,
this is bad, wrong, bad.
Oh, you've done bad things to our Magic cards. No, yeah, they're great. Rat Colony is next. Your Relentless Rats 2.0. 1 black, 1 generic mana for a 2/1 common rat. Rat Colony gets +1/+0 for each other rat you control. A deck can have any number of cards named Rat Colony.
Love it. It's great.
It's just a 2 mana 2/1 you can have a bunch of, and that's okay.
How many do you play in Sealed?
As few as possible.
None in Sealed. I will definitely draft the Colony deck and try to get like 12.
Oh my god.
But like as a meme, like it's not good. Yeah, there was also somebody posted a combo deck with Rat Colony that the idea was discard a Rat Colony and then surgical extract it from your deck. And then you have 5 cards left in your deck, and then you put an Emrakul underneath a Shelldock Isle, and like that's how you win the game. It was kind of adorable, but not good. Adorable.
So they're playing Doomsday. Got it.
But like bad Doomsday, where you win the die roll and go second, and then discard a Rat Colony to hand size.
There was a different kind
Hey,
of
I
Doomsday.
respect the hustle.
Oh,
It's something.
The hustle is a hustle. This card's not very good in limited formats. If
Wait,
you
mean
need it to drop,
that's not going to work? Rats.
Man, we ain't even half done. All right, so Rat Colony. Moving on to Rite of Belzenlock, of which we have a very special guest. Let's see who showed up for this one.
Hello, I'm Vorthos Mike. You may know me from the Magic Art Show and the Snack Time Cast, and my art reviews, which I write whenever a new set comes out. Today I'm here to talk about Rite of Belzenlock, and this card is made by Seb McKinnon. It's a saga from the upcoming Dominaria set, and it's a very simple saga. For 2 turns, it makes 2/0/1 clerics twice, makes 4 total, and then it makes a 6/6 demon that deals damage to you if you don't sacrifice one of your 4 clerics. Very cool card, very interesting card, but what I really want to talk about is the art. The art really is the showcase of the Saga series, and in looking at them, this is by Seb McKinnon, the Canadian artist. It's all digital. He and Nilsham have this style that is hard to describe as being just digital. It almost looks mixed media. And in doing so, he painted Belzenlock here as the demon coming forth from the Cabal dwellings, those stylized circles with the dots in them. Those are like homes for the Cabal people, stylized to look like he is coming from them. It denotes where the character comes from in Dominaria, as well as the cleric in the middle, showing she's doing the summoning. And then, of course, the chorus of skulls, which is a throwback to his Master's 25 piece, Dirge of Dread, which has connective elements. The person on the left-hand side of Dirge of Dread is actually in the background of Rite of Belzenlock, behind the center cleric woman. Those people back there, they're not really willing sacrifices. Those are really just citizens living in the Cabal territory. It creates this hellscape of Gustave Doré as an artist, or even Dante, to show this damnation of these people. Really not by their choice, but again, they decided to live in the area, so what do you do? Wonderful piece. You can see a little bit of the gold halo around the character, which generally in religious iconographic elements would mean this is a religious figure, but it's a demon. So it doesn't really fit that, but to them, it is their main religious figure. Beautiful work, beautiful card. I look forward to playing it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to build around in the Commander format.
So thanks very much, Mr. Linneman, Mike himself, for hanging out and telling us a little bit about Rite of Bells and Lock. For those who don't know, it's 2 black, 2 generic mana for a rare enchantment saga. For the first 2 chapters, you create 2 0/1 black cleric creature tokens, and for the third, you create a 6/6 black demon creature token with flying, trample, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice another creature. If you can't, this creature deals 6 damage to you. So this is the Rite of Lord of the Pit, kinda 2018.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier with Chainer's Torment and how, one of the reasons I wasn't too enthused about it was that the demon didn't really have anything other than just being a big dumb body. This one being flying and trample is really where you want to be and where I really start to get interested in this card. It's really been a treat watching Seb kind of lean into what he does. Sometimes you see artists that are constantly like challenging themselves and trying new things, which I love, but at the same time, I really appreciate somebody who's like, what I do well? Creepy. Yeah. And I'm just going to lean into that. We saw it with Dirge of Dread, we've seen it with other pieces, and he's really giving us this. He's like, this is what I do well, and I'm going to really deliver on that. And, Mike was right. We saw these characters with Dirge of Dread, Freudian slip. I hope we see them some more. I love this card. I think it's great flavor. We've also seen clerics throughout Magic's history. We saw it with the Shadowborn Apostles. We've seen it with just other black decks, like you mentioned, Lord of the Pit, Breeding Pit. This feels like home to me. We hear a lot of references of Dominaria being home. Everything in this card feels like home to me.
I mean, I know that, basically, if you're trying to play with this in Limited, you're playing with fire. I mean, more or less literally, because if you can make it work, this card's amazing. You're making a 6/6 flying trampler. You got 4 guys to sacrifice to it. If you can't win in 4 turns with a 6/6 flying trampler, what you do? What do you do? Like, what's going on in your life? Like, let's have a conversation, because ultimately making sort of a Lord of the Pit-esque creature, which is cool. Yeah. Making the creature sacrifice it is nice. I'm not really sure. I feel like the power level of this is right, but that there's at the same time I would be very concerned that it would kill me.
Absolutely.
Basically.
I mean,
welcome to playing black.
Yeah, exactly. Greatness at any cost. I mean, you're certainly playing this with a lot of the 3 mana. When it dies, make a 1/1 creatures. Yeah,
Saprolings work really well with
Saprolings work really well with Rite of Bells and Lock. I mean, boy, the first 2 chapters are pretty lackluster. You got to wait a little bit and put it on layaway to get that 6/6, but the payoff's pretty good. So I think you play it in Limited, but you're right, you're playing with fire.
Know what you're getting into. Try to prepare for it. Try to draft some cards that will, give you bodies left behind, or make multiple bodies when you play them, just so you can have a little bit more of an insurance policy. Yeah. Because when this thing shows up, it's business, But if they somehow pacify it or tap it down,
it's you're signing a deal with the devil.
Sometimes the opponent does you a favor and gets rid of it for you. We see that with Dark Confidant sometimes, where your life's running low and you just quick attack with it, throw it into something. Like you're not sad to see it die. Yeah.
Nice. So we'll see where this card ends up. I don't really have a lot of high expectations for Constructed.
But Mike brought it up specifically because of the art, and I'm really excited for the next Magic Art Show with all of these new sagas, this one being a high priority for me as well.
Absolutely. Settle the Score is next. 2 black, 2 generic mana for a uncommon sorcery. It says exile target creature, put 2 loyalty counters on a planeswalker you control. Wizards has never done this. We have never had the ability to put planeswalker counters, just loyalty counters, directly on a planeswalker. Not just 1, 2. There are multiple planeswalkers that if you do their plus whatever, the next turn if you play Settle the Score, you can ultimate them, like Liliana the Veil, or Nahiri the Harbinger, or Samut the Tested. Or there were some other ones I can't remember off the top of my head. But either way, there's a lot of cards where it's like, play my thing, plus it, this being for Liliana the Veil. Yeah. Next turn, untap 4 mana, get rid of your thing, and then you lose half your stuff. Yeah. Is that good enough in the world of Modern? I don't know. Probably not. But I'm just thinking out loud.
Sure.
But this card in and of itself, it is fantastic. It is exile target creature for 4 mana. To be clear, play it in all your limited decks and easily, pick it early, because again, it's just creature removal. Yeah, you may not get 2 loyalty counters on your planeswalker in limited, but that's just being greedy. Like, this is still a great removal spell.
Absolutely.
I mean, we see Grixis control right now in Standard that uses Chandra, the new Chandra Torture Defiance. This is something you could easily pair and get some value out of that. Liliana Lich Mastery sometimes sees play. I really like this card. I don't think it's I know you're a little more concerned about it than I am. This could be a slippery slope. I think it's good. I don't know if it's like...
Well, I like that it's dangerous. Yeah. I appreciate that it's dangerous. Yeah. And Chandra Torture Defiance
is one of the other ones.
It's one of the cards along with Vraska Relic Seeker. +1 turn that comes out, and then Settle the Score Ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it for constructed. I don't think. I mean, it's very similar to you get the pay 4 mana, deal with a creature, get a benefit. Things like Ravenous Chupacabra have been printed recently. Getting a 2/2 or getting 2 loyalty counters. Probably similar power level and constructed. The story elements of this card is very interesting to me as well. Obviously, Liliana had to deal with the 4 demons, Bells and Lock being the 4th. That now that she's removed the 4th demon, the contract was put into default, which caused In Bolas's Clutches to happen, because apparently there was some fine print that they didn't read.
Yeah, I'm going to need the legalese on that one.
Yeah, we need to get one of the lawyers in here.
Right.
Get the WotC legal team to figure out exactly what's going on here. Get the
rules
rules
lawyers
lawyers in the building. Very powerful card. You're playing every copy of this that you draft. You're probably not getting a Planeswalker in your draft, but if you are, hey, value.
That's great. It just feels like, putting 2 loyalty counters on a Planeswalker is very similar to sort of taking 2 more turns.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but in terms of like you're able to kind of cheat the system. You're able to do things you're not normally able to do. And that's dangerous, and by dangerous is always exciting. And I'm always concerned because I don't want Magic to break. I don't want another season of stupid busted cards. I don't think this is one.
Right.
I hope not, but I also recognize that, hey, that's a very powerful effect.
I'll tell you what, if this becomes a player in Standard and Planeswalker Ultimates becomes a thing that people are afraid of and a tier 1 strategy, I'm okay with that. Like, Planeswalker Ultimates are almost never a thing that's relevant. And so if Settle the Score can make that happen, I'm all for it. That makes for more exciting Magic.
But it's also, and again, the Planeswalkers that they go plus and then you're able to ult them next turn, it's a lot of win more, It's like, okay, I played my Vraska and I +1, and then your life total went to 1 next turn. Like, I've already have a Vraska and already at +1 turn, I said go. Yeah. I'm already in a pretty good position to start with. Soul Salvage is a black and 2 generic mana common sorcery. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand.
The flavor text is pretty great, though.
What? Flavor? There's flavor? Is there flavor? There's flavor. I'm sorry, there was flavor.
Ruben, what's it called?
Soul. Salvage.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is the most entertaining we can make this card. That's it. There's way better versions of this card. Yeah. There's a cycling version that was already an Amonkhet or whatever. Like, this is not a great card. Nah. You need to play it only if you have some crazy huge bombs that you want to buy back with it. Or if your opponent just has like all the removal in the world and you're like, okay, fine, I'll make do.
Control mirrors. When it's tough to stick a threat, when you've only got like 11 creatures in your deck and 11 removal spells and both players are like that, this is a draw too. This is your black divination at that point.
Right.
Not very exciting.
It's not. It's meh. You'll see a lot of them as your last picks.
Yeah.
Stronghold Confessor is a 1 black common 1/1 human cleric that has kicker of 3 generic mana, also has menace. This creature can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. And if Stronghold Confessor was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So it's either a 1 mana 1/1 with menace or a 4 mana 3/3 with menace. Both options, super great.
Yeah, this is surprisingly relevant, and I usually forget that it's a thing. Like, even Insolent Neonate, people will be like, why didn't you attack? And I'll be like, they had a creature. It's like, they have menace. And like,
oh, oops. Because menace is the new Intimidate, which was the new fear. Like, they're trying to come up with a way to like have an interesting combat mechanic, and menace is one of those things. And again, a 1 mana 1/1 that is good early and good late is awesome.
Absolutely,
that is great.
Yeah, I've attacked with many a menace creature holding a sword or an equipment of some kind. This is a great thing to hook up a dub to.
Oh, that dub-dub.
That dub-dub. As a hill giant or as just a 1/1 for 1, both halves of this card are pretty darn good.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
I'd be happy to have a lot of these in my deck.
Colorless kicker, even.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that much. It's not that much of a stretch. Like the Drake, which had 4 generic mana. Well, this is only 3 generic mana and becomes essentially a hill giant with value.
Yeah,
which is awesome. Thallid Omnivore is next. What in the world is this thing?
This kind of reminds me, at first glance, reminds me of the insects from Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Just sort of the weird, legs and the weird claw talons. Yeah.
Yeah, so for a black and 3 generic mana, it is a common fungus that is a 3/3. For 1 generic mana, sacrifice another creature. Thallid Omnivore gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If a sapling was sacrificed this way, you gain 2 life. So this is a way to sacrifice your own guys for value, which is cool. Turns into a 5/5.
I mean, we
It's a
had
4-mana
the
3/3.
we had the death ballad earlier that
Yeah.
when you sacrifice it, you get a 1/1 sapling. So having sort of this aristocrat style little engine going is not unheard of. And if you have creatures with death triggers, all you really need is a sack outlet, and for the cost of one colorless, that's doable.
I love the story that this tells, by the way. I had already known how the saplings came into being, but having it in a flavor text is very nice. That there was a famine happening, and the thalids and the saplings were sort of developed as a food source. But then they sort of gained sentience sort of by accident because Dominaria is weird.
It's eating the baby.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think, so that makes sense, because Kelly Diggs was on
The
Twitter the
thalids
other day.
eat saplings.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what he meant. So Kelly Diggs from Design or Story was on Twitter the other day, and he said something to the effect of, saplings will never grow up to be thalids.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why is that? And now that you mention it, it's
That's
like,
because they're farm to table.
Because they eat them.
Yeah.
God, that's horrifying.
Why is that horrifying?
It's kind of horrifying.
Have you ever eaten a hamburger?
Did you sit here and just say we ate the baby? They ate the baby.
It's not a baby. We just said that it's not going to
it's
turn into a thalid.
Yeah,
The
it's a lot,
thalid's not going to turn into a human.
when you describe
It's a food source.
But when you describe something as a ling, that implies that it's a
It's
baby.
going to
Does
grow up
it?
to be a thing.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Like
grow up.
fledgling. That's baby.
It's fun.
You need to separate yourself from... There's no moral implications here. If you're a vegetarian,
Oh, now
I
who's the
apologize,
black
but I'm a
mage?
meat eater,
Oh, okay.
and
Straight
I
carnivore.
would eat saplings. And then
You
gain
would.
2 life.
You
if
would
I...
listen to them scream as you chewed on
They
them.
Hide
don't-
your saplings,
guys,
hide
these
your
are
screaming.
wives.
Now they're screaming. The
These
babies are
are
screaming. We're moving on.
wandering lettuce heads.
we don't
it's
have
not...
time.
Oh my god.
Thalid Soothsayer is a black and 3 generic mana 2/3, an uncommon fungus with 2 generic mana. Sacrifice a creature : also known as eat the baby. Draw a card.
There's no moral implications to thalids, guys. All right. There's nothing wrong with having what are they called?
Baby
like
eaters.
a produce animal.
Got it.
Not a baby eater. You're not allowed to eat a burger anymore. You ever had a steak? That's what these are. These are fungus steaks. All right. They're like a portobello burger.
Fungo.
Yeah.
Steakaroonies. All right.
Look, it's not.
All right.
I can't with you.
Thalid Soothsayer is a super cool fungus. It is a 4-mana 2/3 that you're sacking creatures and you're drawing cards.
Is it
There's
holding
plenty
a
of
heart?
sacraments. Yeah, it is. It has pulled the heart out of the thing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Is it
look
a
at that.
heart?
Yeah.
That's
They,
hardcore.
began emulating the Cabal's blood-soaked rituals
wow.
in their own peculiar way.
I
See,
love
that's
it.
a little creepy. When he's just
Oh.
eating mushrooms, which are a different phylum of species
Which
than
have
human
phylum.
beings.
Ooh, we're phyluming.
Wow.
Might have been a different scale. Whatever. My point is that once it starts realizing, oh, we can pull the hearts out of humans, that's murder,
Well,
right? But
sure.
you can't murder a mushroom person.
Except when you
There's
can't.
no moral
Now look,
implications.
Thalid Soothsayer in and of itself as a card is really cool. This card allows you to get value out of your little dorks, value out of your chump blockers. You assign them as a blocker and then you eat them and draw a card. There's other cards, of course, that create 1/1 saplings as roll to die, and we're going to see some more of those too. So like as a card, it's a 4-mana 2/3. It's a really nice package and a really good card to play with,
Absolutely.
regardless of us screaming about babies. Torgar, Famine Incarnate.
What is that?
Famine Incarnate is insane. Man, I want to be Famine Incarnate one day.
No, you don't.
No, I don't. It's 2 black and 6 generic mana for a 7/6 rare legendary avatar. As an additional cost to cast it, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This spell costs 2 generic mana less to cast for each
Let me
creature
just interrupt you.
sacrificed this
Dredge
way.
does not want this. Do you know how many people tagged me in this? We're like, Aaron,
No.
you make lots of things. Sacrifice those things. No, I don't want this.
When Torgar Famine Incarnate enters the battlefield, up to one target player's life total becomes half their starting life total, rounded down. So note, this works both ways. If you're at 2 life and you get this card out, you go back to 10. If they're at 20, you take them to 10.
Right.
Like this card can
There's a
hit
card,
either player.
There's a card in Hearthstone called Alexstrasza, which just was retired from the standard format. In Hearthstone, you start at 30. Alexstrasza is an 8/8 for 9 that sets a player's life total to 15. And so there's a lot of comparisons here to Alexstrasza, which, by the way, that card was a highly played tournament card for its entire lifespan in Hearthstone. So the fact that you can do that with this card, now obviously Magic is very different. You have to make all your land drops in Magic where you don't have to worry about that in Hearthstone. There's a lot of differences
Did you
here.
free her from the Nexus? No.
Well,
I mean, let's look at this a different way, okay? All I have to do is have 3 creatures, and this costs 2 mana.
Yep.
Yeah.
I make 2 servos. This costs 4 mana.
Yep.
I make
Saplings.
saplings. Eating some babies. Doing
right
some
of Bells and Lock. There's lots of ways to get lots of
Call the cavalry and then sacrifice
there you
them.
go. Absolutely. And also for Brawl, this is almost always going to cost 2 mana because you can sacrifice 3 creatures and then sacrifice 4 and then 5.
Great way to get around commander
Nice.
taxes.
There you
yeah.
go.
Oh wow, that's super cool. So that in and of itself is really neat. And like you're basically going to have to sacrifice at least 1 creature to get this thing out on the battlefield in a limited environment. I feel like I can't get to 8, and if I get to 8, I've lost. But to get to 6 is a thing. To get to 4 is a thing. If you're able to make some tokens, you don't care about them. Some saplings, you don't care about them.
So is Torgor supposed to be the opposite of the Halcyon lady? Like she's life and he's death? Is that what we're going for?
Potentially.
guess.
Again, this is another character like the Halcyon lady. I don't know. Any
Okay,
history
yeah, I want to
of
know
this.
more about them. So if any Vorthoses are watching, fill me in.
All of the legends that are just like never been referenced before and haven't been referenced in the story yet either, because there's so many legends. How many articles can they write?
Right.
We want to have like 5 Joyra articles. Torgar's way down on the list, and obviously all the Yargle articles are coming out soon. I'm sure.
So many Yargles.
But Torgar, eventually, I want to know like what is happening here?
Yeah.
I think what is happening is a very powerful magic card.
Well, yeah.
Are you saying that you're hungry to learn more about the famine and
Absolutely.
Wow. Because it brought on the
I get it.
Urgoros, the empty one.
He's also hungry because he's empty.
He's super hungry, dog. 2 black, 4 generic mana for a 4/3 uncommon legendary Spectre. In the history of Spectres, pretty sweet. Flying, whenever Urgoros, the empty one, deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card at random. If the player can't, you draw a card.
Wow.
That's super sweet.
Expensive though.
It's
6 mana, 4 power flyer is above the curve.
Okay.
The Spectre effect. Most Spectres in Magic have the sentence: when it deals damage to a player, they discard a card of some kind. Hypnotic Spectre, Blizzard Spectre, Blazing Spectre all have that sort of effect to them. This one, if your opponent is Hellbent, you get to draw a card, is a really nice addition to that. I'm a little concerned with that 3 toughness. I think that's pretty fragile. But it's an uncommon. I mean, what do you get? It's fine.
I think they powered it down.
Oh, for
I
sure.
think this was a 4/4 at one point.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just too good because oftentimes by the time you get this out, like this feels like at one point maybe it cost 5, and at one point maybe it had 4 toughness, and they just had to move numbers because if this is too good, it's super annoying.
Yeah.
And if it's too bad, you're never going to play it anyway, so you kind of want to hit that sweet spot because ultimately at 6 mana, your opponent is basically going to be able to sculpt what they lose. If they only have 1 card, which they're going to have, and give it to you, that's fine because they don't want you to draw cards. That's ridiculous. Unless it was a huge bomb, they're not going to play it.
Right.
So giving your opponent the ability to determine whether or not this ability is good, I don't think is good.
Yeah.
This to me seems like a card that like, oh, that's cute. Maybe I'll try it if I'm looking for a 22nd, 23rd card and I don't have much on my top end.
I mean, if you have one of those very, very, very controlling draft decks where you have like 12 removal spells and only like 10 creatures, this is fine.
If you have, this is also a card that you can use with like a blink of an eye where you're able to bounce something into their hand that you then hit them and makes them lose.
I like that.
See, that's cool. You can synergize with it a little bit, which is neat. But again, I think it's been powered down in a few ways, and I think it's really obvious that it has.
Yeah.
Vicious Offering is a black and a generic mana for a common instant with kicker of sacrifice a creature. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. If this spell was kicked, it gets -5/-5 instead.
Wow.
This card is bananas. I will play 10 of this. This card is so good.
This card is very good. Now, it's not quite Bone Splinters, where Bone Splitters you sacrificed a creature and you killed something, because that was mandatory.
Yeah, of course.
This gives you 2 mana to shrink something, or 2 mana and you lose a sapling, if you will. Eat a baby. And -5/-5. That's what you do. You kill the baby and you -5/-5.
This is turn 2, kill your Bomat Courier, or a little bit later, kill your Hazaret. This kills gods, people, all right? This is a thing that you're able to answer Ronas, you're able to answer Hazaret, you're able to answer those really difficult to deal with creatures at the low cost of sacrificing a Thopter token or whatever.
You can even sacrifice a blocker, So like you block with like a little 1/1, and then in response you sacrifice it. I love Morbid. Morbid's one of my favorite mechanics of all time, and this does a pretty reasonable Morbid impression, which I really enjoy.
Which is cool. So this is a great removal spell. You play
you'll play every copy you get. You'll play this in standard probably. Like this is like your 2/2 split with cast down in your constructed deck. I mean, people are already playing Moments of Craving in those Grixis control decks. This is that with upside. This lets you answer resolved gods, which is a huge deal.
No, absolutely. There is also something to be said for game life. off the Moment of Craving. However, being able to up this spell's ability is awesome. And -5, -whatever gets around indestructible, and that's very important. Whisper, Blood Liturgist, a black and 3 generic mana 2/2 uncommon legendary human cleric. Tap, sacrifice 2 creatures, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And I have to point out this sweet flavor text of, look how they beg for the knife. The Demon Lord has trained them well.
Yeah.
I'm just...
What a crazy person.
So she appears to be the same character on they recently did a new version of Cabal Ritual. I think it was for one of the From the Vaults.
Yep.
And you can see her in the middle with the knife, and you see the pairs of arms or the hands all kind of sticking out. And so that's a nice callback to that card. I think this is great. This reminds me of Hell's Caretaker.
Oh, yeah.
Only it has a little bit of a bigger body, and you have to sacrifice 2 creatures, but you can sacrifice her as one of the creatures.
Yes.
And I think this is great. I'm obviously a 4-mana reanimation that you can constantly do. I'm a fan of. I love the character. I was attracted to her when I saw the trailer. I was like, who is that? And so I really want to know more about this character. And she even seems to be, I think she might be the one that gets exiled in that 1/4 and a white. Like, you see her, it looks like it might be the same person.
Oh, the 5-mana.
But yeah, every time I look at this, every time I look at this, I hear that. I think it's the Yin Yang twins of like, hey, little mama, let me whisper in your ear.
Well, I don't know.
That's a bit much.
It's hard to see, but there's a big bullseye on the top of our head right there because there's no way your opponent wants you on top of this card. There's just no way.
Yeah, this is the so there's a card called Victimize in Urza's Saga that is basically the text of what this activated ability is, which is it's sacrifice a creature, get back 2 creatures for Victimize. This harkened me back to that. This also combos really well with your Brawl General, Muldrotha. That was a combo that I think Adam Savadan had at the pre-release for Loading Ready run as well, which was pretty unbeatable. Although I think Kathleen beat it because Kathleen just had a ton of stuff.
She just gets the stone cold nuts.
Right.
I see you, Adam. Hey.
Well, look, this card is very, very powerful. If you're able to do things with sacrilegious, you're able to do things with cards that provide bodies after they die. Like this card is fan freaking tastic. So note this card. Absolutely play it if you get it. Play multiples if you can find them. Good luck.
Very good.
And an uncommon.
Wow. And you can do that at instant speed, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's a thing you can just be like, all right, go.
Block, tap, they died, this monster comes back.
Right.
You
insane.
done?
I'm in.
We all finished here? Windgrace Acolyte is next. It is a black and 4 generic mana for a 3/2 flying common cat warrior. When Windgrace Acolyte enters the battlefield, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, and you gain 3 life. So basically, as a 5 mana, 3 power black creature, it's fine.
Have we seen black cat warriors before? That tends to be like a white, green
we've seen
for a
Miri
while.
the Cursed.
Miri the Cursed.
But that was in the alternate timeline. Yeah. I'm not sure.
I'm all for that. That seems like a nice
We've not
twist.
seen cat warriors. We've certainly seen black cats, such as Black Cat. But 3 power for on a 5-drop with flying is a rate that you're supposed to get in limited. Mostly you get them in white and blue. Getting a 3 power flyer for 5 mana in black is a big deal. Gaining 3 life helps you race really well. I mean, getting a life gaining 3 power flyer is not a thing that black gets.
Yeah.
And so I think this card's really, really quite good.
I mean, if you scoot right back and look at Whisper, and then you scoot over here and look at Windgrace Acolyte, they fuel themselves.
They do.
Like, they can do that. So, and note that for those who, particularly newer players who are just like, man, I hate putting my own cards in the graveyard, just don't worry about it.
Oh, honey.
They're all random. It doesn't get any less random.
Subscribe to Aaron Facts about putting your own cards into your graveyard.
It is a good thing to do now, isn't it? It's good for your body, your mind, your soul.
This is a good Windgrace reference as well, referencing Lord Windgrace, who was one of the original big planeswalkers back in the day.
I didn't know that. I wondered who that was because it was in the flavor chat. I didn't know.
Lord Windgrace was a uber powerful being way back in the day, before Urza, I think.
Wow.
Wow. Cool. Well, there you go. So ultimately, again, this is not a very exciting card. This isn't a card you want a ton of. This isn't a card you'll never first pick this thing. But it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for what it is, and the color that it's in that doesn't get a lot of 5 power or 3 power flyers for 5. Yargle.
How much time do we have?
Yargle, Glutton of Urborg. So good. And it doesn't even do anything. It's a black and 4 generic mana for a 9/3 legendary frog spirit with the sick Jahan Chu just killed it with this image. Just killed it.
And someone has already taken the googly eye stickers and
oh my god. This card has already gotten a ridiculous fan following for a good reason.
This is the Fubolthop of the set.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
This is the totally lost of the set. This is who's like, oh man, we're going back to Dominaria. We got like Urza casting spells, and we got Jaya's returning, and we got all these. No.
About this frog, you see.
Yargle.
Yargle
has come to Bargle.
I mean,
that one's going to leave a nasty taste in my mouth. I might have to gargle.
Yeah.
oh my god, gargle over Yargle. Look, there's like 15 to 20,000 Magic cards. There is only one card that is a 9/3.
Frog Spirits.
And it is Yargle.
Yeah. Oh. Do you really Stargle how good this card
Wow, you should be ashamed, sir.
I'm very Shargle.
I beg your pardon?
Oh my god. Moving on, Yargmoth's Vile Offering.
You almost said Yargmoth. I heard the twinge of the R. He's like, Yargmoths.
That's an offering I would pay. I would take that up.
Yawgmoth's Vile Offering is a black and 4 generic mana rare legendary sorcery. Of course, you may cast a legendary sorcery only if you control a legendary creature or planeswalker.
Such as Yargle.
Put up to one target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Destroy up to one target creature or planeswalker. I know.
Such as Yargle.
God almighty. Exile Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. So you are bringing stuff back. You're killing things. Yargle's in there somewhere.
It doesn't have to be. It can be any. So this is interesting for a couple of reasons. This is another way to put a planeswalker from a graveyard under the battlefield, which is relevant for that Nicol Bolas deck that I heard talk about. I mean, it's another 5 mana way to do it, so it's going to take a while.
Sure.
It's a removal spell, which obviously you want, and it's a removal spell that gets rid of a planeswalker or a creature.
Sure.
Which that overlap, we haven't seen that effect on a card since Hero's Downfall.
Yeah.
Where you could target one of either in black. This one is another really outstanding card, and in limited, I think this is the best of the legendary sorceries because it's the easiest to get off. It's the easiest to. It's always a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
Whereas the white version is medium. Taking an extra turn is I mean, the red one is usually going to be a 3-for-1, so that's different, but it doesn't put a threat onto the battlefield like this does. And the green one is sort of like a
weird.
It's like a Green Sun Zenith or a what's
Genesis Wave.
Yeah, which is okay, but this one is guaranteed to be a huge effect on the battlefield.
So, Aaron, this feels like this is all you.
So when this card first came out, I didn't get it, and I didn't really like it, and I was just like, I don't get it. I don't understand. That's a lot of work, though. Like 5 mana, and you need a legendary.
Yeah.
Like that's effort,
it's
man. Like
walk.
I'm used to bringing back Ionas on turn 1. Like this is a lot. But I have kind of thought about it some more, and I mean, at the worst, I mean, even if you can't take advantage of the first part, you're still getting to destroy a creature or planeswalker, which is not bad if that's what you need to do. But I've come around to this. I think I appreciate it more from a flavor standpoint of sort of the storyline of, you see sort of Hannah's mummified, corpse in the middle, sort of the shining light of this otherwise really dark scene. You see Gerard literally holding Urza's head as part of the bargain, as part of the offering.
Urza's body right there.
Yeah, I think this might be one I might come to eat some crow on, because like I said, I didn't like it at first, and people were like, you're going to be wrong. And so I'm prepared to be wrong on this one. But, we've seen things like this before, kind of like with Return to the Afterworld, or the one from Theros, where it was like sacrifice the thing.
Rescue from the
yeah, so like that, no one really didn't see any play either. So like 5 mana is a lot. And especially if I have to choose between, if I can choose between Whisper and sort of do this over and over again, or sort of a one-time thing, I kind of want the repeatable engine. So.
Sure. This card is bananas. This card is bananas. Card is
I'm prepared to be wrong, but I'm not really feeling it.
I mean,
card's quite good. Also, by the way, that isn't actually Hannah in the art. Spoiler alert with the story. That is Yawgmoth pretending to be Hannah.
I know how it shakes down. I just assumed that was the real her, as sort of the bait, and then the switch was that it wasn't.
Right. And as a result of that, this is the first time that Yawgmoth has appeared on a Magic card. Yawgmoth has appeared in print before, in magazines and in
We've seen
in other
avatars
art.
and like servants.
Right, but
yeah.
technically that is Yawgmoth in the middle.
That's wild.
So this is the first time that Yawgmoth's actually appeared.
Yeah, because centuries ago, a mad god offered a simple trade. Basically, give me the head of Urza, and you can have Hannah back, who died, because he was in love with Hannah.
Yeah.
Except that was actually just Yawgmoth fooling him, and Yawgmoth could see through her eyes, and that's how they eventually tracked him down and all this other stuff.
And then Gerard was like, here's the head, stab, and actually got to stab Yawgmoth with like a knife, which is not a thing you should be able to do to a god. But that's how it worked, was he put himself into the embodiment here to be able to collect the head,
Right.
because he needed to physically take the head and have the power, because there was still the spark inside of Urza's head. His head was like part of the legacy weapon.
Right.
Even his brain is just like an immensely powerful artifact. So then Gerard was like, nope, I see through your ruse. Get you.
Huzzah. Well, with that huzzah, we end our review of black cards in Dominaria. That is essentially our halfway mark, as we're getting almost halfway into Dominaria here. I want to thank everybody for watching, all of our Kickstarter backers for helping making this happen, for Evan Irwin and Ruben Bressler and Aaron Campbell. We are Magic Mikes, and we appreciate you watching, and we'll be back soon with all of the red cards.
We'll be right, Bargle.